Okay, Gurbinder, let's take a look at this new set of essays. This is the flowchart about tea. Let's see what you wrote. This flowchart illustrates the various steps through which different kinds of tea are prepared from fresh tea leaves. Overall, as can be seen, for white, green, oolong, and black tea, fresh tea leaves after sorting undergoes either steaming or withering. Moreover, scented tea is made from green, black oolong tea. Okay, well, it's a little too detailed for me here as far as the overview goes. It's a little too much information for an overview. You're getting into details and you're not giving me the overall picture. So, what would have been a more appropriate overview? Well, there are a handful of things. One of the things you could have said was that of the different tea types, white tea is the simplest procedure. That's the first thing. The other thing you could have said is that while all teas have a different number of steps and include different steps, one commonality among them all is that they all must be sorted and cleaned first. Well, that's also a little detailed as well. But yeah, I probably would have started off with this, that white tea was the simplest, or the other thing you could have said is that white tea is the simplest and is the only one among the other three types, among the tea types that is not used to make scented tea. Okay, so there were a bunch of things you could have said here. I felt what you wrote was a little too detailed though. Okay, so let's move on. To begin with, firstly, fresh tea leaves are sorted and cleaned to get rid of germs and dust. Don't talk about that. They never told you why they're sorted and cleaned and what they're sorted and cleaned from. So this is just your presumption. Don't include it. If it's not listed there, don't talk about it. After that, white tea can be prepared when leaves undergo steaming and then drying. For green tea, often withering is done and leaves are either rolled and shaped or dried before pan frying, careful through typing, steaming or firing. Jasmine is added for flavor. It is interesting to note that to make oolong or black tea, withering is a common process. Let's see, withering, black. Where is withering? Oh, withering. Okay. Is a common process. Okay, leaves in the basket are shaken and rolled to get the bruise. I don't understand that. After short fermentation, when our pan fried. Okay, this is bizarre. This is confusing. Leaves in the basket are shaken and rolled until bruised. You're describing oolong. I'm trying to see what you're trying to say. Followed by a short fermentation, then pan frying, then drying. I'm not really crazy about it if you did it like that because it's still a little like a list, okay? But what you wrote grammatically doesn't make sense to me. I can't try to fix it, okay? However, for black tea after withering, these are after these. What is these? So, however, for black tea after withering, leaves are rolled into strips for black and are dried before full fermentation. Black tea. They're no, so they are. I'm confused. Wait a minute. They're rolled into strips. So no, that's not true. They are dried after full fermentation. Because look, first full fermentation and then dried. So that's why I'm so confused. So that's incorrect. Scented tea can be prepared when green, black, or oolong tea is dried and scented with flowers or fruits and then is cooled. Okay, so this part's okay, but this part had some inaccuracies. That's why I was a little confused. Not a little, I was kind of confused. And there was some information that that you should not have included because it wasn't anywhere in there. There was that one sentence that was completely confusing to me. And there were just a couple of areas of awkwardness, okay? So there are definitely some problems with this. You've got the right idea overall. I'm glad that you dealt with white tea first. That was a good idea because white tea is the simplest. So you talk about those three things and then you're out of there. I have a different way how I would do it. Yes, I would have done exactly what you did. And I like that you also mentioned that they all share this common step, sorting and cleaning. Like I said, I would not have listed it in your overview though. Okay? So let's take a look now at your task 2. This is one about governments moving companies. Okay. Nowadays, many businesses are forced to relocate to local sites rather than metropolitan cities. All right. Nowadays, many businesses are forced to relocate to local sites rather than remain in metropolitan cities. That's how you want to say this. There are many advantages to this, such as employment to the locals and cheap labor costs. However, it also brings some disadvantages. Fine. On the one hand, there are some uses of mushrooming firms at local sites. Okay, I don't really agree with the term here, mushrooming. It doesn't feel quite right to me. So, I don't even think that's what you're trying to do. I don't know, you're trying to spread out I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what word you should have used. Something's coming to my head, but I don't think mushrooming is appropriate. So, how about distributing? Or I don't really know. On the one hand, there are some, not uses, but there are some benefits to relocating firms at local sites rather than in large cities. So you have to make those changes here. The first point is that it provides a job. How about jobs? Because we're not just talking about one job, we're talking about multiple jobs. So I would have changed it to jobs, to the regionals. Hence, their living standard can be raised. Reportedly, recent research at Sydney showed that by establishing some companies in the countryside, the employment rate increased. Care for the grammar. The employment rate increased by 1/4 in the last decade. Secondly, it is also advantageous when large firms set up business in local areas as cheap labor is available in the countryside. Okay, companies can gain more profit and might extend their business. It can be beneficial for the national economy. Therefore, government force big companies to set up their business in local areas. All right. The problem with a lot of this paragraph is the fact that you have these short, choppy sentences and there is no link between them. So it's an issue of coherence and cohesion. Okay, so this whole second part just felt so choppy to me. So I'd like to see if we can fix it. Let's see. It is also advantageous when large firms set up business in local areas as cheap labor is available in the countryside. In this way, companies can gain more profit and may extend their business, which in turn can be beneficial for the national economy. All right, that's how I would have done it. Is it kind of long? Yes. Am I trying to prove a point? Yes. I'm trying to show you that there are other ways you can extend your sentences and make them a little more cohesive. Okay? So, on the other hand, relocating business at local sites, I don't know about this local sites. I don't know. It's local cities. It's smaller regional cities. I don't know why you keep calling them sites, but relocating businesses to local sites also brings many disadvantages. An issue is that it increases pollution in regional areas. These areas are intact, which flourish. No, they don't flourish with flora and fauna. That's incorrect. I know what you're trying to say. You're trying to say that they are pristine and they are the site of flora and fauna. I understand what you're trying to say, but grammatically this just does not work at all. Having factories in these areas would destroy the beauty of nature because workers will use cars and other vehicles to commute and to supply materials. It is evident that the pollution rate increased significantly when large firms established their business in the countryside in the USA. Another problem is that to find an intelligent and skilled workforce is also challenging in the regional sites, as people prefer to do farming or their local chores. Therefore, to hire staff from the city can create challenges for the business. Okay. In conclusion, although without the capital A, government forced large companies from the metropolitan cities to set business at local sites has numerous benefits. All right, no. So let's try it again. In conclusion, lowercase a, although government forcing large companies from the metropolitan cities to set up businesses at local sites with a T has numerous benefits, it has drawbacks also, as it creates pollution and less accessibility of skilled workers. Okay, accessibility of skilled workers. How about less accessibility, less access to skilled workers would probably be a better way of saying this. Okay, so there are a number of problems, primarily in terms of grammar. I struggled with quite a bit of it. Not that there was anything that I couldn't get through, but it was enough of it to be challenging. Okay, it didn't flow easily, so I had to halter quite a bit. So keep that in mind. I want you to work on some of these grammar areas. So go ahead now and correct these both. Return them back corrected, add to your error correction list. I want you to revise some of these grammar points that we keep talking about. And let's meet back with your next set of essays, okay? Good luck to you.